Today I would like to start with a poem. That's from Rumi. And the title is Quietness. And now we listen to a piece by John Cage. I forgot the title, but the experience is similar. So again, quietness. Inside this new love die. Your way begins on the other side. Become the sky. Take an axe to the prison wall. Escape. Walk out. Like someone suddenly born into color. Do it now. You are covered with a thick cloud. Slide out the side. Die. And be quiet. Quietness is the surest sign that you have died. Your old life was a frantic running from silence. The speechless full moon comes out. Become the sky. That is also one meditation instruction of the Buddha. Meditate like the sky. Be the sky, become the sky. And take an axe to the prison wall. Escape. Walk out. Do it now. Like someone suddenly born into color. And sometimes we feel like this. You are covered with a thick cloud. You are covered with a thick cloud. Slide out the side. Slide out the side. And certainly we can recognize when he says, your old life was a frantic running from silence. And we can also recognize the speechless full moon comes out. The speechless full moon comes out. So let's just resonate, respond to these words. Sitting quietly. And open to that mystery that we can slide out in any moment. And it takes no effort. And that quietness is not at all different from what you're experiencing right now. Can you feel how your thoughts and the feelings you have right now, the emotions, the sensation in your body, they are all that quietness. Like waves are the ocean. So nothing else needs to happen than exactly this. Nothing else can happen than exactly this. The speechless full moon comes out. and just being here, being who you are, and discovering that you're already whole, that you're already complete. That nothing is wrong with you. And resting in that quietness, through which the universe moves. The sounds from outside and the sensation in your body and the stars. And nothing what happens in this moment, no thought, no feeling, no sensation, can separate you from that quietness. You can't reach it, and you can't lose it. Resting in timeless presence. While not knowing what this timeless presence is. Not finding it, yet resting. And every moment takes care of itself. And quietness reveals itself freshly now. arises just calls for your presence. This is an invitation for you to be here without any pressure. Just being with your hearing, with the breath, with the feelings. Without stopping anything and without trying something else, without trying to make something else happen. Just this. Giving space to the river of life, to the play of your karma. To the expression of the evolution of your consciousness. And being very intimate with who you are. Very close. And not taking it personal at the same time. Grounded in your body, supported by the earth. Connected in your heart. So the Buddha taught all these different methods to work with the content of our experience. But he taught all these methods to work with the content of our experience in order for us to recognize that quietness. And that quietness is it's very difficult to describe. But it seems that one quality of that kindness is that it has that softness and that openness of our heart. It's just in a mysterious way connects us with our goodness. When we're at ease with who we are, when that quietness reveals itself, that mystery of life, maybe in the moments of nature, moments in nature, moments of art or music, moments when a poem or a teaching really touches this chord inside of you. So when that happens, then it seems that goodness and benefit just springs forth from that. You wouldn't say something mean or harsh or We don't need to puff ourselves up, or we don't need the approval of other people. When that freedom is touched in us, we don't need to defend ourselves. So a lot of the violence we add to this world day by day just falls away. The violence we add to this world by being so hard with ourselves, so judgmental with ourselves, and also so judgmental with the people around us. So when we rest in that quietness, there's no judgment, there's no lack. And it's so important for each of us that we appreciate and acknowledge that these moments happen in our life. So what are the conditions for you, the internal and external conditions for you, which you can create so that those moments can arise? And maybe you're not sure right now what I mean with these moments. So in the Buddhist teachings we receive teachings on what are the conditions for connecting with that quietness. What can we do from our side so that moments like that can arise? Moments which my inspiration is to share with you here in these evenings. And that's something all of us we need to find out ourselves, because we are all different. So I can only share what works for me. And a poem like this, for example, works for me. That's why I share it. But what are the conditions, what are the things which you can do, or the places, or the people, or the music, or the art, or the teachings, or the practices which open that quietness for you? In my experience, the best way to close that space is to try to get there. And that's probably one of the biggest trap on the spiritual path, that instead of being on a path of opening that space, it becomes a path of trying to get there, and in that way closing that space. And then even in our culture we believe so much in effort, and harder you work, quicker you get the result. So it could be that part of your development is a few years or more of heavy-duty practice of trying to get somewhere, and there's value in that. It's not a waste of time. But maybe you can look at it with some humor and with some lightness. Like, yeah, that's what we do. We believe that we need to work hard to deserve it, or we believe it's something very complicated to understand, so we need to read more and get more teachings and understand. And still, some of the practices which involve like the doing and for example, just before when we do this mindfulness evenings at 6 o'clock, we have this Tara practice, which is a practice in the Tibetan tradition, connecting with the feminine enlightened energy. And part of that Tara practice is to chant a mantra. So that's definitely something you do. For me, the most opening moment in this practice is when we stop to chant the mantra. Maybe some of you know that from listening to classical music, like when you go to a concert. I remember some time ago I was in this new concert hall, and for me the most impressive thing was the silence, even while the music was still going on. But then when the music stopped, there was quietness, there was connectedness, there was openness, there was one awareness. And I guess many of those people sitting in the audience, they wouldn't call it a spiritual experience of recognizing the nature of their consciousness. But that's why we are drawn through this kind of experiences, because it's our longing to be home, it's our longing to be resting in that openness, letting go of this burden of the self-centered mind, the self-important mind. Just a moment of rest, of peace, of that. Some people use drugs for connecting with that space. Just a moment of peace, just a moment of letting go of the self-centered approach. Me and my thoughts, me and my feelings, me and my problems. Just a moment of openness. rest, letting go of me, poor me, what about me. So my way to work with these practices is that they still happen in my life because I'm so used to them. But I'm not doing them anymore to get somewhere. So in a way, I think, I believe, I feel that the most important point in our life is to recognize that quietness. That is the quietness which will arise when we die. And because we have not familiarized ourselves with that space where there are no reference points. It's a space without any reference point. Because we don't familiarize ourselves with that, when that space arises at death time, we freak out. Everything we have been taking refuge into, everything which created a false sense of security, will go. It's just like one layer after the next. In the Tibetan tradition, they describe that process very precise. Here it goes. That reference point, that reference point, that reference point. One layer of identification after the next. And then the speechless full moon comes out. And if we have familiarized ourselves with it, then our death will be, like Lama Yeshe said, dying can be like going home. Because that quietness is the only safe place there is. So when we take refuge in the Buddha, Dharma, Sangha, in the Buddhist tradition, you take refuge. What we take refuge in is that quietness. In the deepest sense. And that quietness, it's why the Buddha has that quiet smile. Yeah? And in some of the teachers I have met, like the Dalai Lama and Lama Zopa, that quietness is so profound that when I'm in a room with them, it's like it's a sense of real freedom. It's like you can a landscape can also do can do that sometimes for you. Like you look into a landscape and and then you are in that, and you don't exist anymore in a way. It can also happen with music. It's like you listen to music until there's only music. You sit in the mountains until there's only the mountains. Or you sit by the beach until there's only the ocean. So that is an experience some people also have when they meet the Dalai Lama or other teachers. It would be beautiful if we, all of us, would recognize this, every day, because it's, of course, it's around you. It does not need to be the ocean. It can be anything. So that is when Rumi says, take an axe to the prison wall. It's like recognizing these moments when that quietness seems to be covered by the clouds. When he says, you're covered with thick cloud. That's like when the openness of the sky closes itself. And we are locked into the prison of our own projections. We are locked into the prisons of our own story. So then a poem like this, or a teaching on YouTube, or a piece of music, or maybe for you is going running, can open that space again. And then slowly it creeps onto you. It's like this is like, suddenly it's like a scent in the air which you have not noticed so far, and then someone points it out to you. Isn't there a scent of a rose here in the room? Yeah, now I notice. Yeah, and then it's like there. It sneaks onto you. And suddenly you see, wow, it's also in the office. It's like a positive paranoia. And it's so beautiful if you then appreciate that it does not depend on a person, on another person. Like, we don't need to run to India, or it does not depend on some strange clothes or some bizarre things you need to say or do. It also does not depend on being smart, or it does not depend on having your life together. It does not depend on having a good and loving childhood. It does not depend on anything. It's unconditioned. start to recognize, you start to smell it, even when you feel miserable. It has nothing to do with feeling happy or feeling miserable. It has nothing to do with being healthy or unhealthy. Okay. So let's have a tea. And then if you have some questions or comments, we can have some discussion after the break. So this is from the Tibetan Book of Living and Dying by Sogyal Rinpoche. I think if you only want to read one book about the Tibetan tradition, I would recommend this one. And if you want to read two, then the second is Lama Yeshe, Introduction into Tantra. So that quietness, which Rumi points to in his poem, has different names. And Sogyal Rinpoche writes, "Saints and mystics throughout history have adorned their realizations with different names and giving them different faces and interpretations. But what they all fundamentally experiencing is the essential nature of the mind. Christians and Jews call it God. Hindus call it the Self, Shiva, Brahma and Vishnu. Sufi mystics name it the hidden essence, and Buddhists call it Buddha nature. At the heart of all religions is the certainty that there is a fundamental truth and that this life is a sacred opportunity to evolve and realize it. This life is a sacred opportunity to evolve and realize it. Are you doing it? Is that what your life is about? If not, you waste your time. Really. But how to do it?
Full-time project.
It definitely doesn't mean to give up your job. And certainly not to give up your family and your relationships and your commitments you have. So it's following that call in you, that longing in you. Giving space to that truth, which sometimes we lose out of it slips away because there seems to be so many different important things to do. So when are you most connected with that truth? And how does that feel in your body, in your heart? So towards the end of sitting quietly together in a simple way, just like this, without needing to do something, without meditating. We can appreciate how fortunate we are to come together in that space. In that transmission. Which comes in an unbroken lineage from the Buddha. And that transmission of quietness is always the same when people come together in the spirit of truth, in the spirit of kindness. And we can appreciate that in our daily life. We have the invitation to slow down, to take a breath, to make a gesture of welcoming, to open our heart and eyes, to open our body and all senses, and to be present. Short moments. Short moments repeated again and again until they become continuous. Any questions or comments?
I had one. I think when you read that passage from, what was his name, Rinpoche?
Omi.
No, not from the...
Sogya Rinpoche.
I think you really had something deep in mind in me with the thing about evolution and the meaning of life. I was really like, yes, I can recognize that.
Mm.
But what confuses me is when I open the newspapers or when I look around in society. It's not the values I see out there.
Hmm.
So when I'm in a circle like this, or in other circles where people have kind of like the same understanding, I get supported in this. But
Hmm.
I think that very often it seems like this is not. Maybe it's more in the east, but at least here it's not the norm. Thing like that.
Hmm.
I don't think not even in the east.
Hmm.
So this sometimes can become kind of like schizophrenic, you know. It's like I have this truth who's very not Renaissance, very deep inside me, but then I come out with this pizza, then I come outside and there's all this storm, all the other values about,
Hmm.
and then yeah. So do you think it's the same for all people, or maybe people are different? It's still like I don't know. It really confuses me sometimes.
What is the confusion?
It is. If this is the goal of living,
Yeah.
why does it seem like it's not the goal for everybody?
Ah. Yeah. Hmm. So in the Mahayana tradition, it is said that since nothing else will bring satisfaction, deep satisfaction, at one point everyone will turn towards this. So from that point of view, everyone is actually is developing into that space, or into that place, because that's the only place where we are complete. That's the only place where we are whole. So all other projects, they will not bring us there. So, and then it might take a few lives to realize that. But quite often it happens actually within one life. For many people, even if they had very different values initially, while they go along in their life and they try their thing and they try their career and they try this, and then life hits them on the head, and it's like, wow, what now? What now? Yeah, and yeah. So from the Mahayana point of view, we are all, every one of us is this stream of consciousness. We are all streams of consciousness manifesting in different shapes and different forms. And sometimes it seems that we get lost in different values and different ways of life, but the sky will win, the sky will prevail. Like this sky also will always win, even if there's a big, thick cloud which seems to not move. So the sky will win. The goodness will win. What I've found challenging, of course, is to keep to your truth, even if around you there's so different values, and in your family there's different values. So it can happen, it happens easily, that we don't really live our life, but we live another person's life. The life of the neighbors, the life of the family, the life of the father, and not following really our heart, not following really our truth. So it takes really courage to follow that call. And to leave the nest. It's a shitty nest, but at least it's a nest. Yeah, so it's full of shit. but that's what we have. So, and then, and at one point, then, yeah, to jump, yeah, without, yeah. So then you have to trust. I can fly, yeah, without having tried it before. Yeah.
I can really connect to what you were saying. Even I will phrase it different in my own mind, but I feel it's so easy to get lost. True. So easy to get lost in your own world, even not in the exterior world, but just getting lost. But I think part of it is the illusion of separation. So if you look at everything that goes on and everybody else just as reflections of yourself, then there's no need to pass judgment. Because who are you judging? There's no contradiction between me and the other person, between me and the world. So it opens, if you are able to open yourself up. So when you judge yourself or you judge somebody else, it's like seeing somebody trying to commit suicide with a knife and say, oh no, and taking away the knife from them and stabbing yourself, right? So if you don't judge, if you just observe, if you just go into that space you're talking about, there's not this apparent contradiction about duality, you know, not even values, not even good or bad. It just is, right? It doesn't make any sense to think of good and bad. It's just reflections of you, or the big consciousness, or whatever you call it. There's no need to worry. Everything is perfect.
It's not how I always perceive it, at least. Again, if I open the newspaper, I see somebody have different values than me.
Sure, sure. But are there anybody different from you? Are there? There's this idea of separation.
Yes.
I have a question about the space, like the nature of the quiet, and where, I guess it's a kind of stupid question probably, but where's the joy in that? Like I look at His Holiness and Nangye and they just seem so like really deeply happy. But
Yes.
I'm curious if that's is that in the quiet or what?
Maybe it's another room.
It's a good question. Yes, it's a good question, because this question could be also the reason for some fear into diving into that space, because it is not a void, it is not emptiness. Emptiness in the sense of nothing. So what is said in the teachings, and that is also what we connect with, or what you connect with in moments of ease. So in the teachings is said that this quietness is imbued with joy, it is imbued with all good qualities. So if you let go of the small self, the contracted self, into the big self, then goodness will show, benefit will show. And I think that is something we can recognize. Or I can recognize. So when we are at ease, when we are relaxed with ourselves, when we don't need to defend ourselves, then we are so kind and so soft and so open to others and interested and sharing, and so the qualities, the good qualities, they just grow from that. And when the mystics, when they describe these experiences, they also talk about these qualities. In the Tibetan tradition, in the Buddhist tradition, it's called the union of bliss and emptiness. Yeah, the bliss and the union of bliss and emptiness. Yes.
So somehow last time in this I heard you say that it's very much about opening up to what is and not trying to have a, like in other tradition, a proactive choice to like this I want to concentrate on, or this I want to tune in on. However, I as well hear that, and even feel that, for example, when I come in here, there are resonances that like you build up this place, I mean, with Buddha and with these things, and you do say like, meditate like the sky, and like speak about quietness and this space. And I see that as well as like somehow a proactive choice, like something you tune into, and it's not just openness as a you. How do you see this?
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's what I do. So I need to do something.
Yeah, but you put it in a more subtle way. I think you said, I have to give up trying, because then the trying comes in its way for me too.
Yes, so it's a quite delicate dance of talking and inviting without putting pressure and without making it a method. And there's more radical approaches to this. So one option could be, I read the poem and then nothing else. But then even in that open space could be used by everyone in a different way, and so it's the projections, it's the concepts, it's the ideas. That's what we have to work with, to go beyond. It's a paradox. It's like we use thoughts to go beyond thinking. We use meditation to go beyond meditation. We use methods to go beyond methods. And it used to drive me crazy. This paradox. And now it's more like a dance of both happening in the same time. The doing and the not doing. And the music and the silence. And the prostration and the freedom in the same time. Making offerings and enlightenment, it's both there at the same time.
So that's part of the reason it's hard to have a conversation about it. Because the moment you say something, it's not.
Yes, so it's in a way hard to have this discussion with me because I have nothing to defend. I could, yeah. So I can have opinions, but when we rest in that quietness, then we see, oh, my opinion is an opinion. And this person also has an opinion. Okay, let's dance with this. While being aware and losing it as well, because of course I'm not enlightened, so I'm going to lose it. If you attack me, if I feel attacked, then I will contract, and then what I'm going to say will be somewhat stupid. And you will notice it. Yeah, I mean, you are not stupid, so you notice when I'm contracted, and when I'm talking from that space, you notice it. And I can't talk from that space all the time. That would be wonderful if we would have an enlightened master here who could share that in a more clean and direct way. But this is good enough. Yeah. So, and I can't fool you. And maybe it's even helpful to see that someone who screws it up, not only while I teach, but also around the teachings, because that might help you to see, oh, I can do that.
I can screw up too.
Yeah, so yes, yeah, I can, but yeah, no, I can do that. I can taste the cup of freedom while I maybe screw up in my relationship and while I screw up at my work. But here I can really truly taste the cup of freedom, and yeah, and it's not a contradiction then to go home and do the same stupid thing with your partner. And of course it will affect. Like today, when you go home, it's very likely that you're in a different space than you were yesterday when you come home. Yeah, so it has. Okay, so you need to. There was one. No.
Could I? Quickly,
Yeah.
two things. I think first of all, it takes a lot of humility to say what you just say. I really think that, because when you meet some people who are around with guru or master status, they seem to pretend all the time that they're perfect.
Yeah, you never know.
No, but
Because
again,
there is definitely people who rest in that freedom more cleanly and more powerfully. I'm not sure if there's someone on this planet right now who will rest in that 100%.
And then the other thing, but yeah, you talk about mystics, but how about, is there such thing as how to become, for example, an enlightened politician or enlightened businessman? Or maybe Muhammad was. I don't know, but
It's always a little tricky to talk about the mystics or something.
Yeah.
So because we are the mystics.
all of us.
What we are experiencing in moments of openness is just the same. It's not. We don't need to be Tibetan, or we don't need to. It's just the same.
Okay.
So, yeah. So, just one advertising. If you want to have more of this, deeper. So we have the summer retreat, and there's still spaces open. So it's in July. Yeah. So it's by the beach. So very nice environment to just connect with the open sky, because there's a lot of open sky and open water, and it's a week from Saturday to Saturday, I think, and it's kind of similar to here, but just more silence, more sitting, not me talking so much. Yeah. So less of that. Yes.
And then next Tuesday, you guys should definitely come, but
Yeah, right.
Orderly surprise, we'll have a nun here teaching mindfulness. I don't know if she'll just talk about mindfulness or give us a chance to meditate. I'm not sure. It's Anrita who'll be here, but it's an evening where I at least called it back to basics, and she'll give sort of a Buddhist perspective on mindfulness, which we basically get here, but who knows what she'll talk about in that.
Yes,
Please come.
and she will also teach on Thursdays. So if you want to check her out, then you can come. And she also will lead a more traditional weekend retreat, which is it's a powerful purification practice. So if you would like to kind of play with rituals, the rituals in Tibetan tradition, they are conditions we create to open that space, to open that quietness. That's what rituals are for. Prayers are for, mantras are for, movements of hands and body. We do these things to open that space of doing nothing. Yeah? So if you want to play with that and try that out, then maybe you come on Tuesday and check her out. If you could imagine to be with her a whole weekend, and then I encourage you to try out a more traditional practice. And then the week after, I will be here on Tuesday, and that will be the last time before the summer break. And thank you very much. I'll see you again. You can't get away from this.
God bless.